And welcome back to Insemination. This episode is coming to you from my bedroom because I sprained my ankle and cannot get to the studio as of today. But even though I've sprained my ankle, I have not sprained my thirst to getting to the bottom of the infertility industry. I am still your demonic, chaotic, demon sperm donor baby of the podcast world. And we at Insemination are so sorry for the delay in dropping this incredible jaw-dropping episode. But moving forward, Insemination will be dropping new episodes every Wednesday. But moving on to this episode, get your chin rests ready because your jaws will be hitting the floor. Our next guest is a whistleblower who used to work at one of the world's largest cryobanks. So let's just hop right into the story and give my friend Michelle an amazing Insemination welcome. So everybody give a big Insemination welcome to Michelle. How are you doing?
I am well. How are you today?
I am delightful. I only got stuck on the subway for 30 minutes, so huzzah for me. I got to sit and think with my thoughts. And I got to think a lot about this upcoming episode, which I am so excited to do. You and I connected almost a year ago, and I think it is so important to hear from you because you used to work at a cryobank.
I did. Yeah, I worked at what's they call one of the largest cryobanks in America.
And it's a cryobank that sold and still sells nationally and internationally. And what years did you work there again?
I worked there between 2013 and 15 or 14.
And for all of you who are listening at home, you can't see this, but for all of you watching on YouTube, Michelle is wearing the most fantastic Nickelodeon cartoon t-shirt, has Ren and Stimpy, Hey Arnold, Rugrats on it. I am absolutely living for it, and I'm getting so distracted by it, and it is absolutely, all the nostalgia. I love it. I love it so much. Anyways, but speaking of Rugrats, we're talking babies. So what attracted you to this job? Like, was it just like, oh, okay, they're hiring, I'll go work with them? Or was there something that appealed to you to work at a cryobank?
No, it was more like I saw the Craigslist ad and I was like, I need a job. It's New York City. So I went. Once I went for the interview, I was super stoked to do it though, because I have always told my parents I would never have kids, but it was really cool to be able to like start families and not be a part of them.
I love that. Okay, no, I totally get that. And do we feel comfortable like saying like what your job entailed?
Sure, yeah. I was recruitment, sales, and marketing. So I brought in our specimen and I sold it and shipped it. And I also did a bit of marketing, trying to get more sales and more donors.
Okay, so you were it was just like nothing but sperm and eggs all around you. It was just all sperm and eggs.
Actually, at our place, it was just sperm. We only had
Oh,
the
it's
sperm
just
coming in.
sperm.
It was
Only got the
money shots
sperm.
all day. Yeah.
I love it. Money shots all day. Okay. And so 2014 to 16. And how did it start out for you? Like, was this job, did you start, like, was it enjoyable at first?
Oh, so it was between 13 and 14. But
Sorry.
yeah, it was super enjoyable. I loved it. It was fulfilling and interesting, and one of my first entrees into the science world, which I loved. It was one of my first like high-paying jobs, so I felt like an
Okay.
adult.
I love
But
it.
yeah, I was in my mid 20s. It was great in New York City. Like I was having a blast doing it.
Hmm.
I was doing customer service most of my life, so like working with the women, or not always women, the people who would call in, um, was really fulfilling, and I got to have weird, fun, open conversations and help them out. Um, I would say that starting out, it was a great job. Like I loved it.
Okay, so you said starting out. So then, may I ask when maybe things started feeling a little dicey, or when you started seeing things that you were just like, oh, that's a little weird.
Well, when I started, I started like with basics. I didn't know anything about it. So I was working my way up. with knowledge. And it just seemed with as little as I knew, it was still sketchy, if that makes
In what
sense.
well, in what way? Like what felt sketchy to you?
So I would be the first interview for our donors. I would do their phone interview and sometimes I do their face-to-face interviews. And when I was doing that, my boss told me like to keep an eye on certain things because let's say they're a gay man wanting to sell their sperm, just like any other man. Um, if we knew that they were gay, we were supposed to turn them away. But if they seemed like a good specimen, like a top-notch kind of guy that would sell, then we were supposed to like hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You're not gay, right? And then we'd let them pass. And it just
Ooh.
seemed icky. And I brought that up to the boss, and he's like, "Oh, well, that's the standard that the Red Cross uses for their blood. We're no different." And I'd say, but we tell our clients that we test for like HIV and things like that. And he's like, "Yeah, we do. We test when it first comes out. We test 3 months later. We test 6 months later." And I was like, "So what's the actual issue? We already know it's not going to have HIV." And he says, "Well, no, that's just what we follow."
So for anybody who's a little like head spinning at this one, yes, according like so Red Cross blood banks um do not let queer people donate. Do not let them donate by blood because of HIV scare. And it's absolute bullshit. We all know this because yeah, they test for STDs. And with donor conception, the one, and we talk about like how donor conception is so unregulated. The one goddamn federal regulation we all have is that the FDA demands that every donor is tested for STDs. Absolutely. And where this particularly infuriates me is that since 2010, the majority of recipient parents coming to these cryobanks are from the LGBTQIA community.
Oh yeah.
So these cryobanks are discriminating against gay donors, but willing to take their money. And I find that to be repulsive. But also, I find what the cryobank owner your boss said is also like, wait a minute, so you're willing to follow the law, like even if it's an unethical law, you're following the law, you're following the regulations unless the donor is conventionally attractive. So I'm like, so you're breaking the law anyway. And that is really like, so we have just all ethics are out the window on this.
Well, yeah, if they're conventionally attractive or if they have a good test sperm or if they met like our ethnic um, requirements, if that
Now,
makes
in
sense.
terms of like testing sperm, I assume you mean like they have like a high they're very fertile sperm. Okay.
Very fertile,
Um
lots of it there. If it's something we can sell a lot of, then we would make sure that they said no to that. Or I've seen it even given it back and been like, "Are you sure this was the right answer?"
oh my
Type thing.
god.
So yeah.
Oh, that is
But
so oh, no, 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 no.
but on top of that, like they do test for STDs. While I
Yeah.
was working there, I asked if we tested for like HPV, which is one of the major causes of cancer in um, most female appearing people. And I asked that, and he's like, "Well, no, we don't test for that." And I was like, "Well, okay, so is that because there's no test for it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think that's it." And I was like,
Oh.
Okay, okay."
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Yeah, I love when I get an answer when it terms like STDs or like cancer. It's like, I don't know, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to say we're having some red flags. We're seeing things that we're like, okay, this isn't feeling right. Anything else happen that kind of give you some red flag feelings?
Um, so all of the donors had to have a physical and a psychological evaluation.
Mhm.
And that seems like a normal thing, right?
Yeah.
The person who was doing it was an OBG who was a part of the organization. So he had stock in it, I believe, and we also sent a lot of clients his
Oh.
way in the city. So he was the one doing all of the physical and the psychological evaluations on our donors, which always struck me as weird. Um,
It doesn't feel, yeah, that doesn't feel like a neutral. That feels like that could get biased really quickly. And then you mentioned something to me about the actual like cryo chamber that you saw.
yeah, we had a big cryo chamber. Essentially, it was probably like 4 feet in radius. Like it was a big
Okay.
circular tube that was rather wide. And we kept it cool with nitrogen. So we'd
Hmm.
get like gas deliveries every week. Um, and there was one weekend I remember coming in and everyone was like freaking out a little bit. I was hearing a beeping and I was telling people, what's the beeping? And they realized that our tank had gone down, which meant that it wasn't getting the nitrogen to keep everything cool and frozen. And they didn't know when it happened over the weekend. And the big alarm to let the boss man
Shit.
know didn't go off. And we had a late nitrogen delivery that week. I think there was an issue with that as well. So he was freaking out. Um, and they said they saved all of the straws, but it was not like when you open the top, typically some fog comes out and stuff. I wasn't seeing that. It was definitely a while past. So now our chambers, like the small ones that we send home, can last up to like 5 to 7 days. So this chamber could probably hold longer. I'll just say that, but it seemed a little off.
Well, especially with the fact of like how much they charge recipient parents and the fact that you could have just been hypothetically selling them pancake batter is really scary because it's like they I mean parents, there's so many recipient parents who put all of their savings into buying these straws. Now, can you define what a straw is for any of our listener who was like, what do you mean straws?
Yeah, a straw is an allotted amount of semen that gets sold to people. So,
So
but it's not,
essentially a sperm donor would come in, donate, and then you break that donation up
yeah,
into sellable vials.
yeah. So each one of these straws is what you would use to try to
Hmm.
inseminate yourself, but it's not going to be the full load, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're going to get like
Hmm.
sometimes a tenth, or I've seen more of the sperm that comes out.
May I ask what was like the highest number of straws you got from one load that you remember?
Honestly, honestly, it's a donor, it's a donor named Gray, and he broke down into, I believe it was 17 straws. It was a
Oh
team.
my
It was a team.
god! With that, I want to spill some motherfucking tea. So, now I want to be clear. So how oh, you got some tea. We got the mug. For anybody who also, if you're listening but you want to watch this visually, we have the whole video available for you on YouTube. And because Michelle has her teacup and we are ready to spill some tea. And this is where I got connected with Michelle, was with her sharing this story. Now, I want to be very clear. Sharing donor numbers is not something I think anybody should do. A donor number actually can link for a lot of private information, okay? So for anybody out there like sharing their donor numbers publicly, do not do that. Do not share your donor numbers publicly. What we are going to do right now is a bunch of the banks have started not only having donor numbers, but also naming their donor numbers, giving naming their donors, like giving them like little false names to, I think, like what, humanize them a little bit more. So
Yeah,
it's not just like donor number like 34 blue blah.
it
It actually
increases
has like a
sales.
name. Yeah, it increases sales. So what we're going to do is we are going to say the name of the donor number was given. But again, we're not giving out the cryo-bank or anything like that. And the reason that we're doing this is in hopes of hopefully finding some of those recipient parents. And Michelle will explain why. So please, let's talk about our donor, Gray.
Gray, okay. So
Oh, Gray.
Gray, Gray, was an ethical issue that I will just be very clear with everyone on this podcast about. I got fired for. I want everyone to know that before, just so you can possibly see me as a disgruntled employee if you need to. Um, So
We already are spilling the tea. The tea is piping hot. Oh my God. It is scalding. It is boiling. All right. Okay. So, all right. So, and this was in what year again? This was 2015?
14. Yep.
14. So this was recent, babies. This was recent. Now,
Within 9 years.
all right. So now Gray, where did they get the name Gray?
Oh, so Gray started just after 50 Shades of Grey got big. And
Ew. Already
yeah.
I hate it. Already I hate it. That's disgusting. That's gross. No, thank you. I'm already done. I'm already done. Okay. All right.
The head of our office, he thought that Gray would be a good name because the book was so big. And it was. He was our top seller. But better than that, he was a producer. Like, dude had sperm for days. Like, he was good. I also think he was the donor who would bring in cookies like on Monday morning. So like
I'm sorry. I don't want cookies and sperm mixed. That's just not.
I
That's
ate
like.
them.
I'm sorry, but that. Oh my God, no. You said that after he like produced so much sperm and he brought in cookies. That just
The icing was so hot. I'm just saying. Sorry.
I swear to God, if you say it was thick, oh, it better not have been a salted caramel.
Biscuity, I would say. Sorry.
Oh my God. Okay, so he brought in cookies anyway. Okay, so he's producing a lot, yeah. And as you said, you think that one load you were able to 17 vials?
Yeah, and he was so popular. God. Like, dude he had a wait list always. It never got full. No matter how much we released of him, it was never full.
So you also had baby photos. So the women were also, and all of these couples were looking at the baby photos.
Yeah.
And he was a cute baby.
He was so cute. He was a cutie patootie. He was gorgeous. Yeah. And so like he sold really well. And one day I got a regular call, which was, can I be on Gray's wait list? And I said, yeah, of course you can. Let me put you on there. How did you hear about us? Just making small talk while the computer loaded and was putting stuff in. And she's like, oh, well, Gray was the donor of my daughter, and I'd like Gray to be like a full sibling with the next one. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
How old is your daughter? And she told me, and I was like, oh, I don't think we've been selling Gray that long. And she stopped. She's like, no, it's I used him at another bank. I don't know if I should say the other bank. Should I say?
No, let's not say the other bank for right now. But okay. Was it another major bank?
It was another major bank, like a big bank, a cross-country bank, multiple locations.
Did it also sell internationally?
I believe so. Yeah, that bank does sell internationally.
Okay, so another big bank. All right, but so then how did she recognize him? Because obviously different banks are going to have different donor numbers, different names. So how did she recognize him?
Well, I asked her that, and she's like, "Oh, well, his baby photos. He has the same baby photos." God. And I was like,
"Oh,
what?
That's
okay." I started talking to her about it, and she's like, "Yeah, they won't sell him anymore because he's maxed out." And then I saw him on your site, and I was like, "This is my lucky chance. I can still get him." And I was like, "Yeah, it's your lucky chance. Can you send me that profile from the other bank?" And she sent it back to my email, and I put her on his wait list because, I mean, a full sibling is a full sibling, and she wants what she wants. Doing my job.
I understand, but oh my God, do you know what that bank's maxing out was?
I believe it was like 75. I think it was up in there. It was a high number, just like ours was a high number.
Now, just so that everybody can understand the maxing out qualities and why the maxing out does not work the way it should. So we all know that. So there's no sibling caps in the United States. Colorado last year just actually passed the very first sibling cap. That a donor is allowed to donate for 25 families, which is still way too goddamn high, but at least it's something. We'll take it. But that law will not go into effect for a few more years. So basically what they say is so the clinics are like, we have a cap, we have a max, whether that's like, so let's say it's 75. They only do that from reported pregnancies.
Yeah.
So recipient parents have to call in and say, yes, I am pregnant. A lot of parents, I believe it is statistically, it's like 50% of parents don't call in. So it is so beyond not a perfect system in the least bit. This is why we need a sibling cap. It's why we need a tracking system. So yes, he may have maxed out at 75, but most likely there's way more than 75 from that clinic alone. So that's why if you're dealing with clinics and cryobanks, one, it is imperative that you call and you report your pregnancy. It is imperative. Yeah. Anyway, so
they will not always call you.
No. And so anyway, so at that bank, we believe he maxed out at 75, which is already, that number's way too high as it is. But anyway, maxed out at 75. So now what do you do?
Well, I believe that number is also split between how many are in the United States and how many are overseas. So
okay,
that's at least a little bit better, I guess.
It's slightly better, but it's also the issue that I have with that as well is depending on what country they're selling to, a lot of those countries have sibling caps. Now, once it hits those shores, that country gets to keep to its own sibling cap. Yeah. But we've already expanded that sibling cap already here. So it's like you go to the UK where they have a donor's allowed to sell to 10 families max. Great, that's awesome. But while that sperm is here, that pot already might be 100 kids here. So it's like the international law issue is like, that's also a fucking mess. Anyway, keep going. So sorry. Okay. So 70 kids. So what do you do?
So I look at our total of kids and it's up there. It's like in the 30s, like high 30s, I would say. And so I go and I talk to my boss. Now there were 4 people in our entire location. The boss was the head of the US location. And I went to him and I said, hey, Gray donated at another bank. I think this is an issue. And he's like, well, how do you know that? How would you even know that? I was like, well, a woman called. She set the profile. I have the profile. The baby pictures match. She used the exact same baby pictures. He's like, well, he put on our application on risk of perjury that he had never donated at another bank before. I was like, yeah, but unless he has like a twin brother, that's a lie.
Who has the exact same baby photos.
Yeah.
Matching.
It's a lie. And he's like, well, we're going to trust his application. And I was like, dude, this is bad. Like he maxed out there. That means there's more children than he needs. And this was about the time that soccer movie came, or like the, what was it? The sperm donor movie came out. And I was like,
Vince Vaughn. Yeah, the Vince Vaughn. Yeah.
And so like I was trying to equate that. And he's like, oh, that could never happen. I was like, it's happening now. And
it's happening now.
I was like, we have to stop selling him. And oh no, we can't stop selling him, Michelle. He's our best seller. I was like,
oh my God.
No, I don't care if he's our best seller. He lied about his application. We need to stop selling him. We need to talk to the parents that we know about and let them know where he was and what was going on. Well, there's no regulation against it. And I'm going to trust his application. So
okay, and see,
I'm going to need you to drop it.
This is why parents, when I tell you that even if you call and you report your pregnancy, this is why we desperately need a regulation. This is why you cannot fucking trust the banks to keep to their own regulations, because at the end of the day, even as Michelle was sharing about like, you know, the ethics around like using gay donors and everything, like they would turn them away, but then they would use them when it was like it was profitable to them. This is why we need fucking regulations. This is why. Because when money is on the line, they will throw out their own goddamn bank policies. Sorry, I'm pissed off. Anyway, oh my God, so keep going.
I was pissed off as well. Like, I would not let it go. My manager was very upset about me. The other few people in the office were also upset that I wouldn't let it go.
Ew.
Yeah. They were the lab people and the other customer service person they had just hired. I did not let it go, and I sent an email to our international office And shortly thereafter, I was let go. Um, Not well either.
Oh,
I was told I couldn't do my job. And I don't know that I couldn't do my job as much as I wouldn't do the job that they wanted me to do.
yeah. How dare you? How dare you bring ethics into creating life and
Yeah.
selling life? How dare you? How dare you try and bring ethics into this?
And
Oh my
like being a
god.
person who personally, I always knew I didn't want to have kids because I always knew I didn't want to mess a child up, right? I grew up thinking that. And so I came into this and I started the job loving it because I was helping people who wanted families. I was helping
Yeah,
make wanted families.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then I realized what I was doing and who I was working for, and it just broke my heart. I was
Oh,
devastated. I don't think I worked for 6 months after that. Like I was heartbroken.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you had to go through that. I'm really, really sorry. And I think what you honestly have experienced is what I think a lot of recipient parents experience as well once they like sort of realize like holy shit what the hell happened, and it's devastating and it's heartbreaking, and I am so sorry that you went through that. um because I mean, as so if like if you are correct and the bank before their max out was 70, and again that's only reported, that's actually that we don't know the real number, but that's
Right.
70 and you guys were already at 30, that's already 100 kids. That's
Right.
already 100 kids, and they didn't stop selling him.
No.
Now, I don't want to give away private information, but I will say I did find one of the recipient parents who used gray.
Oh,
I did. And found out he also started donating on Just a Baby, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, Just a Baby is it's a basically it's an app. It's essentially Tinder for sperm donors, where it's you find sperm donors on this app. And I cannot say enough how much I do not recommend this. This is not safe. The infertility industry, as it is already extremely unregulated, and this is literally throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so the fact that we've got a serial donor on our hands, and we don't even know, like, could he have been donating at another bank, at another clinic? So we know of at least two banks, and the Just a Baby app, and that recipient parent did share with me the sibling pod is already growing quite a lot.
did he use the same mother frickin' baby photos on Just a
Um,
Baby?
I don't know that. I don't know how they
Okay, I'm
figured that
sorry.
out. No, 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 no. I don't know. Potentially. But that recipient parent was like, yes, we were able to track it, and we did find out that he was also donating on here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do think that it is very important for people to. It's very important for us to, one, find those recipient parents that at least at your bank used gray. And this was a Caucasian man. Like, if you looked at his baby photo, it was a Caucasian man. It was like dirty blonde hair,
Yeah,
blue
like,
eyes.
yeah.
If I can, and I'm going to look back because I did find the baby photos at one point. If I can find those baby photos, I will blur out the face a little bit and post it on here just so that people can see and see if they recognize that photo. But this was this past decade. This wasn't in the 80s. This wasn't in the 90s. This was this past decade. And this goes to show that as much as the industry is saying, like, look how regulated we are now, we're not like what we used to be. No, 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 no. It's just as unregulated right now. And it's terrifying. It's so scary. And I hope that we can find those recipient parents, because in your case, we can actively prove that, because I think that the reason that they do the reported pregnancies is sort of that they can, like, be like, oh, well, we didn't know. Oh no, I'm so sorry. But in this case, they knew, and they actively kept going. So if we can find the rest of those recipient parents, oh my God, please call us. Please talk to us. Let's see if we can help y'all out. Let's see if we can connect the rest of you guys, because this is a very important to, I'm going to say, publicly share on a much more, on a much bigger scale, because this is terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I left that job, and this is going to date me because, I mean, I don't think the new generation remembers blood tests when you got married. But like, I left that job thinking, blood tests before you get married are going to come back, but they're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to be DNA tests because let's say that a child conceived at one bank shared the same father from another bank in the same area, and they
Mm-hmm.
went to school. They didn't know they were siblings. There was no way to tell. They fall in love. They have a child. That child may have really serious health issues because
Yeah.
siblings created a child unknowingly. And
Yes.
so I really do think in the next 15 to 20 years, there's going to have to be mandated blood tests because we don't know what's already gone out and we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's still going out.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to have to happen. That's my prediction.
I think it is because the amount of pods that I've spoken to that are 100 kids each are the fact that I have found several pods of 100 kids each very quickly and easily is terrifying, and showing that it's like, and these kids, like, they all were in the same area. Some of them were like, I grew up to my sibling was my next door neighbor. They were my childhood best friend. Some
Oh,
of them
wow.
dated. Yeah, some of them dated
Yeah.
the same
See?
person. They went to school together. Some of them did date each other, and that is a terrifying thing.
Hmm.
And it doesn't, and always, it doesn't just affect the donor conceived siblings, it also affects the donor's family. What happens when the donor has kids
Hmm.
affects them as well. And they get like, they could easily end up dating a sibling too. And this is something that, like, donors, recipient parents, donor conceived children, it's like, oh my God, this is an absolutely terrifying world we now live in. Um,
And it's not inconceivable for a
no.
young donor, 18 years old, to later in life possibly date their child. It's
Nope.
not completely unheard of in this country for an 18-year age gap. So,
Not at all.
like, it goes on many levels.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not regulated much at all is terrifying for everyone. I do believe there was a quote out there that said, I believe that children are the future.
Yeah.
And this is the future we're creating. Why don't we create it a little bit more ethically?
And that's the thing. It's this is a business where you're literally creating sentient beings.
Yeah.
This isn't like you're not creating tables, you're not creating chairs, you're creating sentient human beings. It has to be ethical, it has to be well regulated, because especially in the United States, where we're like, hey, how can I make a buck? And we're turning your biological children into a side hustle. Yeah, it's got to be fucking regulated.
Mhm.
It's got to be regulated. And I know so many parents are so angry when they find out actually, like, how unregulated it is, and all the things that they were promised was essentially like a lie.
Yeah.
And but I have to say, I mean, Michelle, thank you so much for coming forward, because the fact that we have people from clinics coming forward is such an incredible perspective, evidence that, like, our community, oh my God, so desperately needs. Because so many people who worked in the industry are terrified to come forward. I've spoken to other people who work in the industry who are genuinely scared of coming forward. And it's like, babies, I get that you're scared, and we can do it in a way that keeps you anonymous, that protects you. But, like, I've heard the stories, I've heard them, and oh my God, we got to get them on record. We got to give testimony, because that's the only way. That's the only way. And especially for the fact that I found you and I found a recipient parent of Grace is like, it's huge. And the
Yeah.
fact that what she said backs what you're saying up.
I actually wonder if I spoke to her. That puts us in a whole new connection for me. Like,
Oh God,
oh my
yes.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really scary. And I really hope that, like, for all those families of Gray, please, I hope you find each other. I hope you can connect with us. Send in a message. Let us know that if you used Gray, if you go to my link tree and you will see at the top, there's like, share your story with Laura. Let me know if you used Gray, and we can help connect you. And maybe we can actually start really publicly telling that story and actually name these cryobanks in a much safer legal sense. It's just, obviously right now we kind of can't. So let's do that, because this absolutely should be brought to light.
So Laura, is it okay if I give one more story that's a little like more lighthearted?
Oh, fuck yes. I mean, we're all right now dealing with our boils and sores over the gray tea. So give us a happy little story. Let us eat our cake.
All right. So if Gray is the man that you don't want uh to give you a baby, um, let me tell you about the man who you do want to give you a baby. All right. So this man was older. He was wealthy and he was on his like third or fourth wife. And I was on the phone for him with like an hour and a half. I was chit-chatting with him. We were finding the right donor who looked a little bit like him, and he was telling me all about his life. And he was a sweetie pie. Like definitely an
Oh.
older dude, but like super sweet. He was telling me his younger wife really wanted a baby, but all of his children were grown and didn't really want anything to do with them. So he was going to give her baby. And he bought this sperm and it was beautiful. And the very end of the call, he said, "Ma'am, I apologize if this is weird, but I want to know, um, when we're doing this at home insemination and we do it in the bed, should I make her climax? Should she orgasm before I inseminate her?" And I said, well, I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
I'm sure she would like that. Yeah.
I think the answer to that, no matter what, is yes, but also there's contractions that happen, so it might pull up the sperm. So you're probably right. I would just be on the safe side and give that woman an orgasm before you put it inside of her.
I love a man who thinks about his lady's orgasm. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay.
yes.
I appreciate that. I love that he was thinking that way. I do. I love that you were thinking of your gal that way.
Yeah. I also love that he was thinking of me and he waited till the very end. I knew he wanted to act like it seemed like he had something he wanted to ask me, but he wanted to make sure it was okay with me and he built some rapport up before he did it. Respectful. Definitely the man I would have inseminate me.
I love it. All right. So green. So we talked about red flags. Now that was a green flag. Okay. We love a green flag.
If your
Oh
guy
my
is going to
goodness.
call the sperm bank, give you an orgasm while he inseminates you, that's your man.
That's your man. The man who's like, we're yes, insemination, but also climax, right?
Yes.
I appreciate that. Orgasms around. Everyone gets an orgasm.
You got to have that joy when you
You
spark life.
do. I think so. I feel like that's the best way to start life. It's like, yo, you begin life as an orgasm. I love that. That's your start in this. I love that. Oh my God. Well, Michelle, thank you as always for being the wonderful, wonderful person who has come forward and is helping out donor conceived people and spilling the motherfucking tea. Oh, I love it. Thank you again for your bravery and your courage. And I really, really hope that you coming forward is going to inspire and give courage and bravery to other people who worked at cryo-banks and clinics, because it was like, guys, I know you saw what you saw. Come forward. And I promise if all of you come forward, then all of you can be safe. And I will stand on the mountaintop with you all, shouting and yelling things with you. So Michelle, thank you. Thank you so much for everything.
No worries. I hope people do come forward because I had a very small role myself, I feel. And I think there are lab techs and
Yeah.
managers and just people who know more who could
Yeah.
really shed some light on this and really make a difference in creating that legislation that we all need to create a better future for all of us. Because those kids are not growing up in a vacuum.
No, and that's something to remember, that the sibling pod size donor conception does not just affect donor conceived people. It affects all of society, because the fact that we have these massive giant pods walking around not knowing who each other are, accidental incest, but it really hurts our genetic diversity as a society. It affects our gene pool, and that affects everybody. And this is why we all need to get together and put on a motherfucking sibling cap, which is such common sense.
Yes.
Such common sense.
Thank
This
you.
is not it's not asking for the moon. I just don't want I don't want to boink a sibling, okay? I just really
Yeah.
would rather not. My husband, we took a DNA test before we got engaged.
Yeah, as you should have. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No,
That sounded
we needed to.
accusatory.
No, we had to do that. Of course we had to do that.
Yeah.
Of course we had to do that. Oh my God. Because
Well, sibling caps is definitely one thing, but I would also like to see open donors only. I hope that this is
yes.
another, like, you bring on someone who talks about the difference between open and closed donors, because I
Yeah.
feel like that is important in this country as well.
Yes, because an open donor is open ID, which means that they are known from the start. You're able to have a rapport, a conversation with that donor from the start. So not only are you able to start that dialogue, that also can genuinely help with getting updated medical information that can literally save your child's life. So thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for being an amazing ally and stepping forward. I cannot thank you enough. And for everybody, please come forward. We want to hear from you. We will protect you. Please come forward. There are ways we can protect you. I promise there are. Thank you all so much, Michelle. And thank you so much, oh my God, everybody. Laura, I make my living off of speaking in words. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Insemination. So please, as always, leave a review, follow us on social media. If you want to watch this episode, it will be up on YouTube for all of our visual people. I'm a visual person myself. You all are lovely. You all are amazing. And hey, maybe we don't watch 50 Shades of Grey today. Maybe we don't. Maybe we let that sit for a little bit, okay? Maybe we let that one sit. I love you all, and thank you, and good night.